You know, most Africans are curious when they hear the word Pan-African. Yes, actually we all do, but what exactly does that word mean? Let me check on Google and see if we can come across the meaning of that word Pan-African. So here we go. Google is telling me the word Pan-African relates to all African countries or the advocacy of a political unity among African countries. Okay, so that means if I'm advocating for the unity of African countries, then I can call myself Pan-Africanist. Okay, let's go back to today's segment. I want to introduce you to 3 Africans that has been advocating for the unity of African countries. Let's watch these videos and I'll be back.
This continent of Africa must be one. I hear you saying, he says, the borders must be open. The borders must be opened. Because borders are opened for white people. When there is a white person from Mozambique who can't even speak English, you welcome them. When there is a brother from Mozambique into Nelspruit, you call them names. Yet you don't call white people names. There is no Mozambique here. There is no Swaziland here. There is no Lesotho here. There is no Botswana here. Zambia or Namibia. There is no Zimbabwe. There is Africa, the continent of our ancestors. We were divided. We were divided by the colonizers. What type of a student activist are you? What type of a ground force are you? You say, I don't want colonialism. We want decolonization. Yet you are supporting colonial borders in Africa. We don't want anything that looks like colonialism. We want to be one thing with our sisters in Tanzania, in Nigeria, in Egypt, in DRC, in Sudan, in South Sudan, everywhere else in Africa. We don't want passport, we don't want visa, we must move free of charge. We are one thing. This continent is one. I am a Zimbabwean, I am a Nigerian, I am a Tanzanian, because African brothers everywhere where we are victims of racism and colonialism. They don't care whether you come from Mozambique or South Africa, you are black, they hate you. The best we can do, solidarity amongst Africans. Let us hold each other's hands. Let us protect each other against colonialism. I saw a video of some police harassing a Nigerian in Sandton. I want to say to my Nigerian brothers and sisters, those police do not represent us, and they do not represent the South African police services. Those police, they must be dealt with, they must be disciplined for harassing a person simply because this person is a Nigerian. It must come to an end. Some fool is going to say, but these Nigerians are committing crime. Fine. If Nigerians are committing crime, a lot of them are in Hillbrow. Why are the soldiers not in Hillbrow but in Cape Town among South Africans? There are no soldiers on Nigerians. There are no soldiers on Mozambicans. There are soldiers on South Africans themselves, because crime is committed by us. We are the ones who are selling drugs to our own people. We are the ones who are beating up our own women. We are the ones who are killing each other. And then you hide behind the Nigerians. Stop being cowards. Take responsibility. Stop crime. When Nigerians come here to commit crime and they do not find us as criminals, it will not be conducive for them to do crime where crime is not happening. It starts with you. Stop crime. Stop hiding criminals if you want a peaceful South Africa.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting. The man we just watched is called Julius Malema. Mr. Malema is a South African politician who is a member of parliament and the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, a far left-wing party which he founded in 2013. He was formerly the president of the African National Congress Youth League from 2008 until his expulsion from the party in 2012. He has been very passionate advocate for African unity, and I love his energy towards other African countries. He's been doing great. So from Mr. Selo Malema, let's go back to our next video.
Ghana regained her independence as Ghana. It was then Gold Coast. I think the most eloquent and the most passionate warrior for pan-Africanism was Nkrumah. He said on that day, and again later, that the independence of Ghana means nothing if the rest of Africa is not free. And he meant it, because when Ghana regained independence in 1957, 1 year later, Guinea regained her independence. A year later, the French Sudan, or what we now call Mali, regained her independence. They signed a pact to create what they call the African Union. They thought at that time that would be Africa in her embryonic days. And they invited Patrice Emery Lumumba in 1961, but of course Emery Lumumba was then assassinated in the month of January 1961. And he warned. This is one of the things that always stands out in my mind. That Nkrumah, of all leaders at that time, was able to see that if we were not united, we would go nowhere. So in 1958, he summons a meeting in Accra, Ghana, of the then independent African countries and tells them, if we don't unite now, the neo-colonialist is going to ensure that we remain disunited and we remain small, and they are going to ensure that the neo-colonial project continues. In 1961, on the first day of January, again in Casablanca, Morocco, he tells his audience, let us unite now, before each one of our leaders begins to get used to power. Because power is easy to get used to. You who have been elected will know. Once you become a minister and you become used to people saluting you and opening your doors, if it happens for 1 month, you will find it very difficult if you lose your ministerial position when there is nobody to salute you and to open your doors. That is how attractive power can be. And he warned the people then. But the colonial project was alive and well, because as they were meeting in Casablanca, Morocco, there was another group that was meeting in Monrovia in Liberia. That is how Africa started splitting. creating two groups, the Casablanca group and the Monrovia group. The Casablanca group, which comprised, I think famously, Kwame Nkrumah was there from Ghana, Gamal Abdel Nasser was there from Egypt, Ahmed Ben Bella was there from Algeria, Modibo Keita was there from Mali. They took the view, unite now. The Monrovia group, comprised of William Tubman at that time. Emperor Haile Selassie was also in the Monrovia group. Mwalimu Kambarage Nyerere was in the Monrovia group. They took the view, we want to unite, but gradually. Let it be gradual. So that when Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia convenes a meeting in Addis Ababa on the 23rd through to the 25th day of May 1963, there are two groups already. The Pan-African agenda is already being watered down. There is the Casablanca group and there is the Monrovia group. And the creation of the OAU was a victory for the Monrovia group. And I want you to, there were 32 heads of states and government who met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia on the 23rd through to the 25th day of May, the year 1963. And I want you to listen to all of those speeches, or the compilation of them. There is a compilation of them that was made in the year 2013 when we were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Organization of African Unity. And listen to all the speeches, and I pick out a speech from the leader of Central African Republic, David Dacko. David says, Central African Republic is so small that if we are not a part of an African Union, the French will come again. And they have come again.
Wow, this is a history lesson. This is a true history lesson which his name is Mr. How should I say, Patrick Otieno Lumumba, or let me say Patrick Lumumba. Actually, Mr. Lumumba is a Kenyan who served as the director of the Kenyan Anti-Corruption Commission from September 2010 to August 2011. Since 2014, Lumumba has been the director of Kenya School of Law. A lawyer, Lumumba earned his LLB and LLM degree at the University of Nairobi. And he has been a great Pan-African, trying to preaching the unity message or advocating for the unity of African countries. He has been doing that for long, and it seems, our African leaders are not really listening to all these people who are trying to preach African unity, because most of them are happy being leader of a country. So there is no way they are going to say Africa should unite and all that stuff. It's going to be very difficult, but these people are still preaching and still advocating for unity of Africa. So let's go to our last video, who is Dr. Arikana Chihumbori Kwao. Dr. Arikana is a medical doctor and activist. She is a public speaker, educator, diplomat, founder of medical clinics, and an entrepreneur. She moved to United States after living many years in Zimbabwe. Let's listen to her, and also after I come, I'll share my view. Then we continue.
As we celebrate Africa Day, let's reflect on what our Pan-African fathers wanted to accomplish when they met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, back in 1963. They met to discuss the possibility of an Africa that was united, an Africa that spoke with one voice, an Africa that could only defeat colonization, an Africa that could only succeed at accomplishing and winning true economic liberation through unity. Through unity, meaningful unity of purpose. Sadly, when they went to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 1963, they were divided. We had the Casablanca group, who were Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, who said Africa for the Africans and African unity now. Sadly, they were not the majority. The others, who were the Monrovia group, they said, let's hold off on this unity thing. Let's go slow. My fellow brothers and sisters, Africa lost when the Casablanca group lost in 1963. They came out with a compromise agreement, which was the Organization of African Unity, which has since been renamed African Union. Since 1963, we have been going slow, which were the wishes of the Monrovia group. The only issue we've been able to accomplish since 1963 was the creation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is now seeing Africa going to the world stage as one customs union. The other wishes, which were the establishment of an African military, the establishment of a single currency, a single monetary policy, a single stock exchange, we have not been able to accomplish any of those building blocks for economic development. Let me remind you that at independence, African countries were given limited and, what I say in some cases, fake independence. But what was denied Africans was true economic liberation, because they understood in order for the Western world to continue to exploit Africa, economic liberation was to be denied Africans by any means necessary. Let me take you back in history, when the Africans were minding their own business and the invaders from the West descended upon them. They descended upon them and put in systems to see to it that Africa and her children were forever defeated and dominated, starting with slavery, then colonization, then the Berlin Conference, where they met for 4 months to come up with a policy on how to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. The policies they put in place back in 1884 remain alive and well in Africa today. Those policies continue to wreak havoc in Africa today. For those of you who say, oh, Berlin Conference is a thing of the past, think again. As long as we have a country called Eswatini, as long as we have a country called Togo, as long as we have a country called Malawi, even the big ones, Nigeria, Egypt, Kenya, on their own, they simply cannot survive. And yet, the division of Africa was intentional, was deliberate, and was supposed to have specific desired outcomes. And those outcomes continue to be felt to this very day.
That's very interesting take from Dr. Arikana Chihumbori Kwao. What I want to ask is, do you think accepting to go slow on African unity was a good idea? Do you think accepting to go slow on African unity was a good idea? Or we should have taken the decision of Unite Now by Kwame Nkrumah? What do you think? Because as we accepted to go slow for over 60 years or more than 60 years, there is nothing to show. We are still struggling in the face of our colonial masters, and we haven't been able to put our house together after we accepted to go slow on African unity. This is what I want to ask. So these are three people I am presenting to you as individuals that has been championing the unity of African countries. And I have more videos and more individuals who are doing the same. But this particular segment, I have divided into episodes. So my next episode will be another 3 brave Pan-Africans that you should know. 3 brave Pan-Africans that you should know, but it will be episode 2. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification button so that anytime I will upload any great content, you will be notified. Thanks for watching.